The Wellington Phoenix has 4-game run, I should say, has come to an end. They were not beaten in their last 4 games or so. In fact, they actually look like they were potentially going to be making their way forward and up the table, possibly ahead of where they are at the moment. But the Melbourne Victory have put an end to that. They've beaten them 1-0 at Amy Park in Melbourne on last Friday evening, courtesy of a second half goal from them. This means the Phoenix very much still sit 10th on the table and still a fair way off that top 6, where of course realistically every team wants to be. I'm Nick from Nickn'detail, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Wellington Phoenix Melbourne Victory game, which took place in Melbourne last Friday night. So, let's get into it. That is right, the Wellington Phoenix, who looked like they've been making their way up the table after showing, I guess, some positive signs, having not lost their last few games. However, that run has now come to an end. Melbourne Victory beating them 1-0 at what was a wet Melbourne night on Friday, and of course, the second half goal very much put an end to that Phoenix run, leaving them a fair way off the top 6, with only not many rounds to go in the regular season. So, what are my thoughts on this game? Honestly, even though it's a bit doom and gloom because the Phoenix haven't really looked good over the last few weeks, even though they haven't actually lost a game, this was actually not a bad performance from the Phoenix. Yes, 100%. Francesco Giraldez is going to be a massive impact, I believe. Yes, because they need that sort of play. They need that playmaker, someone to really kind of edge this team forward. I feel like with Costa Barbarouses and Adike Ashike, even though they're great players, don't get me wrong, they're very quick with the ball, but also just very good at making those runs. I feel like they need someone like Giraldez up there just to kind of initiate that sort of attack, just be able to find gaps in that back line, very much what a playmaker should be doing, and I feel like just that was very much missed for the Phoenix, and has been all season, so I feel like bringing in Giraldez is going to make a massive difference. But despite that, I think you can say this is a relatively positive performance from the Phoenix. Yes, they didn't get the win. They did have lots of chances on goal, and even though, as I said, they lost this game, I would much rather have a performance like this one than the results they have over the last few weeks. Yes, they've drawn those games, they haven't lost, they've picked up a point, which of course, in a league like this, a point is better than none, but at the same time, in those games, they just haven't really looked good. They've just looked like they're barely holding on, and it looks like they're just more than happy playing out for a draw, and you can't really be getting draws, not where you're positioned on the table at the moment. You're still a fair way off the top 6, and we know in this league, and in sports in general, results can just mean everything. These sorts of results can change games, can change results on the table, it can just change everything. And just getting a point where you are at the moment just isn't going to work. But I feel like this game we saw a bit more momentum for the Phoenix going forward, showing the promise that some of these younger players can do. I feel like the likes of Corbin Piper, we know the positions he can play as well, looked really good going forward. I mean, could he have done better? Yes, of course, every player could have done better, but at the same time, it looks like potentially we're seeing the Phoenix now looking like they actually do want to get more confidence in front of goal. We haven't really kind of seen that this season, but like I said, with Giraldez now coming and potentially going to make his debut against Auckland this weekend, I feel like we could see a bit of a switch in the light switch for the Phoenix in terms of their attacking momentum. And I think very much that could be on display, as I said, in Auckland this weekend. But despite the result, I think a positive performance from the Phoenix, but of course Giraldez, I believe, is going to make a massive difference coming in, and I think the Phoenix will be hoping so too. So, what went wrong for the Phoenix? I honestly don't think a lot went wrong. I mean, the goal they conceded, of course, was off a counter-attack. You look at their gaps, you look at the options they had, it wasn't their best defending. Unfortunately, we've seen that from the Phoenix this season. I feel like that's why we've seen players like Josh Oluwayemi in goal cop a lot of criticism is because of his goalkeeping. But honestly, as I've said in many videos so far, you can't criticise him. That backline has been really awful this season. Yes, they've not conceded many goals. They've only maybe conceded a couple goals, not even a goal a game, which, to be honest, in the league is pretty good. But at the same time, you just look at the holes in that back line, you just look at their positioning, it's not where it should be, and that's not how a top 6 team defends. And honestly, yes, the counter-attack they should have done better with there. They should have obviously possibly got a goal out of that attack they had, but the problem with throwing so many numbers forward, and of course everyone knows this, it can honestly come back to bite you on the bum, and it certainly did for the Phoenix. You've got to give credit to Melbourne Victory for exploiting those gaps in that back line, and it was a lovely finish there in what was very awful wet conditions in Melbourne. Of course, just makes it that even more tricky to play the perfect ball, to finish that shot, especially for a goalkeeper trying to save it as well. But at the same time, yes, I just feel like and even just the attacking momentum going forward, it looked better, but you really got to take your chance, and the Phoenix should have very much had a few goals, and they didn't take them, particularly, I think, in the first half, a lot of chances there. Yeah, like I said, I feel like, and I've said this a few times, but I feel like Giraldez is going to very much make that difference in that midfield. The Phoenix will be hoping he makes that difference in that midfield. They just need that playmaker to initiate that, so the Phoenix will be hoping that will very much be solving their current attacking problems at the moment. But probably more defensively, once again, is probably a bit more of a problem. Yes, they actually didn't look too bad defensively, but that goal they conceded, they probably should have done a lot better with it, and unfortunately that's just what cost them the game in the end. So what's next for the Wellington Phoenix? Well, as I said earlier, that it is the third and final New Zealand derby of the season. They head up to Auckland to take on Auckland FC. And realistically, looking at the two teams at the moment, you could say Auckland FC very much are the favourites. And you're not wrong. Auckland FC are very much the favourites. They've taken both games this season. Yes, in Auckland, we saw in the last game in Auckland between the two teams, we saw the Phoenix look a bit better. But in that first game, Wellington very much Auckland FC dominated, deserved that win. Even though it was an even game, Auckland FC deserved that win. And even that second game in Auckland, they deserved that. But this game could be interesting, but you've got to say Auckland are the favourites going in, particularly with their form top of the table at the moment, and of course that gap extended further because of an Adelaide loss, who are second at the moment, losing to the Newcastle Jets. But yes, that is next for the Phoenix, Auckland FC this weekend in Auckland, and that shall be an interesting game based on the fact that Heraldez could make his debut, but also who is going to take out the third and final New Zealand derby with Auckland FC 2 from 2 out of the 3 games so far this year. Well, sorry, 2 from 2, of course, in 2 games, 2 wins, but the third game to seal the New Zealand derby finishing this season. So that is going to be it for me. Yes, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, they lost 1-0. How are you going to praise, I guess, in some way, a performance like that? But honestly, if you watch the game, the Phoenix just looked a lot better. I just don't think we've seen that passion going forward. And I've said this in a few videos ago, that the Phoenix just lack, I think, that passion and that pride, wanting to play for the shirt. It's almost like Auckland FC have come in, and the Phoenix moral has just gone down. Everyone is too busy trying to compare squads here. You've got to remember, Auckland FC, you've got to give credit to them. They've built a really good squad. Yes, they've got an owner who can basically release his pockets, basically empty his pockets as much as he wants. The Phoenix probably don't quite have that money, but at the same time, they're two completely different squads. You just can't compare, and I think we've seen that so many times this season, but yes, it shall be interesting to see how that game gets on between the Wellington Phoenix and Auckland FC. That's going to be it for me. Until next time, I'll see you later.